Should drawing attention to the fact that obesity is incredibly unhealthy be treated as a form of politically incorrect discrimination? Should discouraging people from overeating be labelled fat shaming? Should the mere discussion of obesity in a negative context be characterised as a hate crime on a par with racism and sexism? That's what the latest bizarre branch of third wave feminism is pushing for. It's called the fat acceptance movement. The idea that fat people should embrace body positivity despite the fact that they're damaging their body, and that those who express skepticism towards this idea should be silenced, sometimes even with the force of the state. First of all, why even the need for a fat acceptance movement? America is the most permissive nation on earth when it comes to acceptance of obesity. 1/3 of American adults are clinically obese. 18% of children aged 6 to 11 are obese. But according to the body activist movement, the evil patriarchy is waging an insidious conspiracy against fat people, despite the fact that TLC has just handed the YouTube star behind Fat Girl Dancing and the No Body Shame campaign her own TV show. The show will, quote, promote acceptance at any size, indoctrinating thousands of impressionable young people with the notion that fat people should be protected with a newly imposed layer of PC thought control.
There's PC terms for everything these days, but fat people are fair game. Someone has to fight for us.
Push it! Push it! One more time.
I'm Whitney Way Thor. I'm 30 years old. I live at home with my parents, and I'm a fat dancer.
Whitney Way Thor says that her eating disorder is a result of a medical condition. Fair enough. But the vast majority of the millions of people who end up seeing this program are fat not because of a medical condition, they're fat because they overeat. Now they're going to learn that questioning the promotion of a destructive and unhealthy lifestyle, being obese, is a form of discrimination akin to racism or sexism. Are we going to see armies of sanctimonious fuckheads on Twitter who are constantly on the lookout for the next thing to be offended about, targeting anyone who commits the thought crime of calling obesity unhealthy? We're now seeing actual cases where fat acceptance activists are treating any skepticism towards their cause as a criminal offence. British TV host Katie Hopkins was recently reported to police by fat acceptance advocate Catherine Schrodecki for the hate crime of asking why a fat person was fat. That's right, Schrodecki actually called the cops because she was offended by Hopkins' words.
Do you not realise where you're going with this?
How did you get this big?
This is actually to do with a hate crime.
Okay,
and
you're objecting to a hate crime.
Absolutely.
In
and can we call the
statistics,
police? It became personally offensive, and I believe it is a hate crime, and I'd like to report it.
Hopkins was subsequently investigated by Scottish police for a joke she made on Twitter about an Ebola patient in Scotland after tens of thousands of people signed a petition demanding her arrest for a tweet. For a fucking tweet. Police then said they'd be monitoring Twitter for offensive tweets made by other people. So if your house is being broken into, or if you're a woman out on the streets being raped, then the cops might not get there in time. But don't worry, because they're really on the ball when it comes to hunting thought criminals on social media. Newsflash: the biggest threat is not an idiot with an opinion on Twitter. It's a police force with the power to silence free speech. And that's what some of these fat acceptance social justice warriors actually want, to use the force of the state to censor opinions. We're now seeing celebrities embrace this, with Jennifer Lawrence saying it should be illegal to call people fat on TV. This is of course why the fat acceptance movement has been warmly embraced by feminists, because they share the same zeal to sanitize, suppress and blacklist their ideological adversaries. The tolerant liberals will not tolerate your viewpoint if it differs with theirs. And they'll even stage fake spamming allegations to have Twitter shut down your account, as happened recently with the woman behind the hashtag Women Against Feminism, who was suspended by Twitter after disagreeing with feminist Jessica Valenti, who claimed that Christmas was oppressive to females. Yes, they actually shut down Janet Bloomfield's account for daring to disagree with a feminist. Now feminists and fat pride activists like Jill Andrew are giving TED Talks equating sizeism with racism, making allegations of a thin-centric conspiracy to oppress the fatties. The thin epidemic, she calls it. Andrew says that fat is just a description, seemingly unaware of the myriad of diseases directly attributable to obesity, from diabetes to strokes to cancer.
I have come to see now just how fat and black embodiment, how excesses of fatness and blackness make some people uncomfortable, especially those who were born and raised on the milk and honey, the Western comforts of Eurocentric and thin-centric body and beauty ideals.
And just like feminism, the fat acceptance movement has embraced warped dogmas that actually conflict with basic biological reality and science itself. The fact that men are attracted to healthy-looking, fertile, pretty women. Noted feminist Naomi Wolf wrote a book in which she argued that men being attracted to women like Kate Upton in favour of Lena Dunham should be blamed on the evil patriarchy and the diet industry for brainwashing men with false notions of beauty.
I never would have guessed that the only reason we find Kate Upton more attractive than Lena Dunham is because a group of industrialists and Wall Street wizards have tricked us into it. There's absolutely nothing primal or biological about Kate's facial symmetry, about her indicators of health, about her hip-to-waist ratio. There's nothing about Kate that makes her a more attractive specimen than Lena. And any man who thinks otherwise, he's just been duped by the vast beauty conspiracy. Let's try a little thought experiment, shall we? Let's imagine that instead of a women's activist like Ms. Wolf, we have a men's activist named Bobby Fedorowicz. And he's standing in front of a room full of men, telling them that we're all going to fight the oppressive beauty standards that cause women to be attracted to Ryan Gosling. After all, Ryan Gosling is a very unrealistic beauty standard. How insulted would you women be if we stood in front of you and told you that the only reason you found Ryan Gosling physically attractive is because you've been tricked into it, programmed by society, and that there's really nothing that sets Ryan Gosling apart from Bobby Fedorowicz? Wouldn't it seem a little bit ridiculous if we demanded that all of the magazine covers with Ryan Gosling on them were replaced by, quote, real men? What if we said real men have curves? What would you think? I wonder just how accepting these fat acceptance advocates and beauty deniers would be if this guy came up to them and asked them out at a bar.
Feminists even waged a war of vitriol against fitness instructor Maria Kang for daring to suggest that women could have kids and still stay in shape. Kang made the fatal error of posting a toned picture of herself with her kids on Instagram. She was castigated as engaging in fat shaming and was even forced to apologize for her thought crime. Kang was also banned from Facebook for hate speech after she criticized a lingerie company for encouraging fat women to tweet photos of themselves. Because sending the message that women can be self-empowered enough to master mind over matter isn't an idea that feminists want circulated. You see, it conflicts with their notion of females living in this permanent state of victimhood. Why are feminists promoting a movement that is incredibly harmful to women? The fat acceptance movement. Again, this illustrates that third wave feminism really has nothing to do with equality or female empowerment. It's about social engineering. Given that obesity is responsible for numerous chronic health conditions, which in countries with socialised healthcare cost the taxpayer billions, why shouldn't there be fat shaming? After all, we have smoker shaming. In the UK, the economic burden of obesity is around £47 billion a year. 47 billion. That's more than we spend on waging war and fighting terrorism. Obesity costs the US economy $663 billion a year. It costs the world $2 trillion a year. So in comparison, smoking-related diseases cost the UK economy just $5 billion a year. That's £42 billion less than obesity. If you think that smoking should be discouraged, then to not think the same about obesity, and in fact to celebrate it, makes you a supreme hypocrite. I mean, where's the smoker acceptance movement? Hey, it's my body, I can put in it what I like. I can smoke myself to death. It's my choice, right? Yes, and you can also eat yourself to death. And that's why it's my right to call you out on your dumb decisions. Don't try and police language and ideas by creating a new class of victims just to excuse your own bad behaviour. And yes, if you're obese, you should be paying more for health insurance, just as smokers do. You're more likely to die. Men pay more for car insurance than women because they're more likely to crash. But we don't see a dangerous driving acceptance movement being promoted by the men's rights crowd, do we? Why do smokers have to see pictures of diseased lungs every time they buy a pack of 20? Why are there no depictions of fat people having heart attacks on Big Mac wrappers? If a smoker lights up in a restaurant and spoils your dining experience, you can have them kicked out of the place. But if a fatty sits next to you on a plane before a 10-hour flight, guaranteeing to ruin the comfort of your whole journey, can you get them kicked off the plane? No. But now feminist fatties are blaming society for the fact that their ass can't fit into a standard plane seat, demanding they be widened, with others even suing airliners for discrimination. Are we going to have to widen seats and doors on every form of public transport so as not to hurt their feelings? This is fat privilege. Instead of going on a diet and doing some exercise, they demand that society conform to their unhealthy lifestyle and then celebrate it like it's something to be proud of. Do we tell anorexic people to just embrace their size, or do we try to help them remedy what is clearly an extremely unhealthy and uncomfortable physical condition?
Yep. When someone sees a morbidly obese person, the reason why they're staring is not because they're trying to shame that person. It's a natural freak out. Your body recognizes, oh shit, that's possible too. I could do that. God damn, I better not do that. I don't want to do that. That looks awful. Oh my God, that guy's going to die. That's not fat shaming. That's a natural thing that people do where they recognize success and failure in their environment. And that success and failure is as much social success and failure as it is physiological health. If you see someone that's super unhealthy, coughing and smoking a cigarette, that feeling is not cigarette smoking shaming. Okay? That feeling is you're recognizing that someone is doing something incredibly unhealthy, and that possibility exists for you too.
I'm a smoker, but I don't lionize the fact that I'm killing myself as some kind of cause célèbre or weird form of self-empowerment. By all means, shame me. But you see, this is not about fat acceptance, it's about fat endorsement. The body advocacy movement isn't about stopping bullying of fat people. None of us would oppose that. It's about warping society to conform to and reward their negative lifestyle choice at the economic, political and practical expense of everybody else. This fat acceptance movement isn't being led by libertarians to promote personal freedom. It's being led by cultural Marxists and feminists to promote social engineering and the normalization of unhealthy lifestyles under the banner of political correctness. If they can normalize morbid obesity as a lifestyle choice which should be respected, who knows what they'll try to legitimize next? You know, maybe taxpayers should be paying for sufferers of body integrity identity disorder to have their limbs removed under socialised healthcare, because, you know, that's just a lifestyle choice too, right? I mean, under the NHS, I already pay with my tax money for transgender people to have their penises removed. Fat people, I'm not here to tell you to go on a diet or do some jogging. I seriously don't care. But don't take your lack of personal responsibility, your unhealthy habits, and then turn them into this bizarre manufactured, contrived social justice campaign. Don't turn skepticism or criticism of your lifestyle into some kind of Kafkaesque thought crime. Don't chill free speech by claiming what you call fat shaming, or what we would call logic and discernment, is a hate crime worthy of police investigation. Don't equate your cause with anti-racism or anti-sexism. People can't choose their skin colour. They can't choose their gender. But aside from those with a medical condition, you chose to be fat. Deal with it. Don't label me with invented pejoratives like thin privilege to excuse your own binge eating and nutritional deficiencies. Don't shame people for encouraging fitness and health. When you have an issue, don't expect the entire world to change to solve your problem. If you really want to embrace what you are, then go ahead, embrace it. But don't expect the rest of society to embrace it too. Because just like any other chronic health problem, obesity is not something that should be celebrated or encouraged.
You're right, Cal. I'm fat. All these years you telling me and me saying, no, I'm big boned, or no, that's just muscle. It was always just me living in denial. I'm fat, Cal. I'm fat as
Check out the other videos, subscribe to the channel. I'm Paul Joseph Watson for Infowars.com.